Hi and welcome along to the Invincible podcast with my man Lee Judges in the building and Julian, fresh back from Holland, or should I say the Netherlands now, after Arsenal's game against PSV. We're going to touch on that. We're going to touch on the Brighton game coming up this weekend. We also might look back on some of them controversial incidents that took place at the Aston Villa game. But first of all, I've got to tell you, stay safe online, and I hope you guys did this when you were abroad, right? With just a single click and go onto NordVPN. You can get 4 months free on a 2-year plan by going to nordvpn.com/AFTV. With NordVPN, you can keep yourself safe when you're abroad. I hope you guys used it. You can watch your programs that's going on in England. I'm sure Julian wanted to watch EastEnders and stuff like that, right? When he was over there. If you had your NordVPN, you could do that because the location and everything just stays the same. So if you want to get part of this deal, head over to nordvpn.com/AFTV. Click the link in the description, which is below, and you can get 4 months of NordVPN for free with a brilliant 2-year plan. This is an exclusive here to AFTV viewers, and you won't want to miss out on this deal. It's risk-free with NordVPN's 30-day money-back guarantee. Thank you very much to the guys from NordVPN for powering this video. And as I said, for us who go abroad a lot, it's brilliant. Even if you're here in the UK, keep yourself safe because there are people trying to always nick your data and nick things off your phone when you don't even realise it. And NordVPN protects you from that. Guys, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you.
From your trip over to that dead game. But listen, it was actually not a bad game, was it? It
wasn't dead at all. It was
a dead rubber, innit? Before you went there, yeah. I mean, we'd won the group. They were definitely second. So it was a bit of a dead game, but it was a decent game. It was a decent game,
and what was riding on it was £2.4 million.
Oh my God! You know what? Now I've been hearing this a lot from the other day. I don't know about you, Lee. This has been winding me up.
Yeah.
When has anybody in any game in Europe ever mentioned the individual amount of money you would get for that game? This is the first time I've heard this week. When I've been saying to people, let's be real, it's a dead game.
Yeah.
No, you get an extra £2.8 million, like as if they're getting it. Exactly. You know what I mean? When have you ever mentioned that before? When has that ever been said before?
I mean, I didn't even realise that there was that kind of money. But I looked at the preview, and when I saw it, I thought that's actually quite a good idea because it means that teams are going to be motivated to play the game.
All right, how much did we get then?
How much did
we get?
900,000.
Because it's a draw, isn't it? So what did we get?
900,000. Are you sure we didn't get half of the money?
No. Someone actually said it was 900,000.
Yeah, but I mean that 900,000. When you think about that, that pays the goal scorer's wages for 9 weeks. So it's not an insignificant amount of money.
No, it's not. I think like someone said that for actually winning that game, you get more than if you win the FA Cup.
So all of that you're saying there. So how much do we get for the game this week then? How much will we get if we win the game this weekend?
I don't know.
Exactly. So why is it that, everything was, you're going to get 2 million if we win the game? The reason why people are bringing that up, because they knew, and there's nothing wrong with admitting, that it's a dead rubber. We won the group, they're second. It's a dead rubber. You can admit it. Doesn't mean we're not going to support Arsenal in the game. Doesn't mean we don't want Arsenal to win the game. But it's a dead rubber.
Yeah, but from a footballing perspective, you can't disagree with that. But the reality is, football is determined by money. It's no coincidence that Manchester City have been the dominant team since they got that cash injection. It isn't coincidence at all. So in order to achieve greatness, one of the things you do need is money. So to compete in the Champions League is that passport to success. And part of that is getting or being in a position to get £2.4 million for winning a dead rubber.
I see what you're saying from that, but when the first game of the Champions League, no one was worried about the money prize of it. It was just about the points, wasn't it? It's all about points exactly. Win prizes. But what I'm saying, I know it was a dead rubber, and in my head it was a dead rubber. I don't care what happened. I really enjoyed the game.
Yeah, no, because
I enjoyed the game. I was really enjoying it until the ball went up and Declan Rice come on. then I was panicking.
But it was competitive, wasn't it?
It was a competitive.
It was a very
I thought they
competitive
made changes, and which we thought that they was going to. But both teams played it at a competitive thing to a certain
Both played
degree.
to win.
Both teams went for it without the pressure of not losing, I suppose. But I was really enjoying the game. I didn't care if we won, lost or drawn. I just wanted to enjoy a game of football, and you don't get that very often with Arsenal. Like come Sunday, I'm going to be a nervous wreck again, like, you know. But I did get nervous when Declan Rice coming in, and then Jesus is coming. I think Odegaard's coming in. I think, what is he doing?
The only thing that wound me up about that game, right, was why those guys coming on. I wanted to see a couple of the young players.
Yeah, I did.
You know, there was Ethan Nwaneri there, Lewis Skelly was there. You know, I mean, why didn't we get to see a couple of those guys? I was watching Man City's game yesterday.
Yeah, they done it, didn't they?
You know what I mean? They played a few of those young kids. I mean, one of them scored a brilliant goal, you know what I mean? And you looked at it and you thought, that kid's probably good enough to play. I was just like, why didn't Mikel Arteta, this is my only fault from that game. You know what I mean? Everything else, good. And I get why he had to, like you know, I mean, I was surprised he went with both centre-backs, but I get why. I knew he'd have to play one of them, and I knew he'd have to be, you know, a couple of strong players across the team, and I thought the balance of the team was good. But later on, give a couple of them youngsters, what's the point in bringing them over there? Give them a chance, give them a game, give them some minutes.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, there's a few reasons why he did that. The first one goes back to the money, that as supporters...
Money!
The support, but that's the reality of football.
Money!
That if he's got more money, he can then go out in the January transfer window and spend more money, which ultimately will hopefully bring us more success.
But they might save him money. They may come on.
There's a definite correlation.
Hold on, they may come on. One of them kids may come on and look so good and so comfortable at that level. He might save him money.
Yeah.
Might be like, well, hold on, the 50 million we were going to go out and spend in January, we don't need to, because I didn't realise this kid was this good at this level.
Yeah,
Give him a chance.
which comes on to the second reason, is that he sees these guys and his assistants see these guys day in, day out in training. He probably knows how good they are, and also, one of them's 16, the other two are 18. He probably believes, because he's looking at them, that they're not yet ready to play at that level, and he's got to, because there's a difference between...
He was ready at Brentford.
When we'll come on to that, because...
Well, we will.
Sago Jr., I remember he played in
Brentford.
The game against Lons? Sago Jr.
No, played against Brentford, didn't he?
Right, Sago Jr., right. Early in the competition, or was it Lons?
It was against Brentford.
When Saka was injured? Or was it against... It might have been against Brentford, sorry. He looked good, didn't he?
He did look good, but ultimately that competition isn't as important financially as the Champions League.
I'll ask a question, right?
Money.
I'll ask a question. Forget about the money. Forget about how it is. Who played better on Tuesday night? Nelson or Trossard?
Nelson.
Nelson.
It was excellent.
Right. If Martinelli or Saka are coming off on Sunday, who's coming on, Trossard or Nelson?
It'd be a shout for... See, the problem is...
It'll be Trossard.
It'd be Trossard because of goal scorer.
But because in the pecking order he's higher. Well, what I'm saying is you'll get a better performance from the player like Nelson, who's got something to prove, than someone that's established.
But you know what it showed me? So that's a great example, Nelson. I know he's a sort of established first-team player now, but his performance was so good, right, in a very competitive game, that you look on it, and if he does come on Sunday, you're not worried. You're like, you know what, I've seen this guy, I think he can do a job. Those kids that come there, you never know when they could be called upon. We've seen with certain teams in recent times, right? I was watching Newcastle. They've got a 17-year-old, is it Miley?
Oh, very impressed.
Who's been playing really, really well. He wouldn't have probably got the chance if it weren't for all the injuries that are there, but he's got his chance and he's been brilliant. Livramento has got his chance early for Newcastle because of injuries, right? That kid at Manchester United, the one who played, I've forgotten his name now. He played.
Oh yeah, very impressive.
He played in the friendlies against Arsenal, included over in the summer. He got injured. He's come in because of injuries to Casemiro and people like that, and he's done well. So this thing about money, I don't want to hear nothing about money. Put some of these. I'm not saying they had to play the whole game, but I would have liked to have seen them play a little role in the game. I was a bit disappointed that That was kind of my
and also you're
excitement
risking
towards
the
that
players.
game.
Like Jesus coming on for the last 5 minutes of that game.
What for?
There was
What's the
more.
point of that?
The risk and the reward was there. He could have actually got injured there. I'd like to see one of the youngsters come on.
What was the point in bringing Jesus on?
Well, the point is that Jesus is potentially a match winner, and if they'd won that game, there's a difference
they've got more money.
Yes, but money makes a difference with football. You can be as negative about money as you like, but ultimately the reality is
It's not all about money, Julian.
If you look at the champions of the Premier League, it's to do with money, because it's
not
to do
all
with
about the hard work's been done.
Who's won the Premier League in the last 10 years? It's been Chelsea and Manchester City, and that's been about money.
We're talking about a dead rubber game, which you wouldn't even have known how much money we were going to get had it not been a dead rubber. And some people bring it up because
it's a dead rubber in footballing
you don't know
terms,
how much money we're going to get for winning a game on Sunday, which is a way more important game. And you don't know how much money we're going to get, right? So I want to hear nothing about no money. This was an opportunity to give a couple of those young players, I'm not saying the whole game, but later on, bring one or two of them on. And let's see what they can do on that level.
And the reason it is, Robbie, is that we put ourselves in that position by winning those games earlier on. That's why Manchester City done it yesterday, because they won 5 games out of 6. So they could do what ended up winning 6 out of 6. What that done for us, and we was all pleased about that. That's just the thing that really it is a bit of a funny situation. Is let's not go to Eindhoven needing something. Let's make sure it's a dead rubber, because we can rest all the players going into the busy period in December. Then all of a sudden, it's £2 million up for grabs. We've got to go in with a full strength side and all that. At the end of it, we went in strong. At the end of it,
Strongish.
We're not strongish. We didn't get the £2 million at the end of it, like, you know what I mean? At the end, we didn't.
We were very close,
but we didn't get it, Julian. Yeah. Like, you know, and the other side of it is, which is always there was a risk of Declan Rice getting injured or Jesus and all that. We got away with that as well. Like, so at the end of the day, whatever Mikel wants to do, he's got the right to do it. For me, I would have liked to see, not because I wanted to see the youngsters play. I didn't want to see the players go. Who was the 2 worst players on the pitch, by the way? I think dropped their standards.
I thought Kivior
was Saliba and Gabriel. They weren't really at it.
They were the worst players on the pitch because they were trying to coast through the game, weren't they?
Yeah, because they're trying to coast through the game. And I get that. It ain't a problem. You know what I mean? Like, it does show that we're putting Declan Rice in and risking Declan Rice for half hour, because we're very, very light in the central defensive area, which worries me that Tommy Asu is going to be out for a little bit longer than what probably is suspected.
Kivior is not a left back.
No,
he's proved that.
It's proven again. I mean, he was up against a very, very good player.
Very good.
And I did feel a bit sorry for him, because they never ever doubled up. They just left him out. It's almost like they said, let's see how you get on.
Get on with it, which is a fair thing.
And he didn't get on very well.
He'll learn from that. That'd be a good situation. I'm glad that they did get out there. Don't want you doubling up there. See if you can do it, because at the end of the day, if you do get skinned, it's not the end of the world, but see if you can deal with it.
I thought he done all right in the end. Was it Bakayoko?
Yeah,
he looks like someone we can get hold of.
Really,
we've been linked with him, actually.
Like, you know, and I'm from PSV's situation, because we're speaking to a few. They're on a 15-game unbeaten run, and
they've won every single game in their league.
It's not just unbeaten.
They've even brought the band on. Like,
it's that they've won 15 out of 15 in their league.
Yeah, so they wanted to continue in all the leagues.
Yeah, they wanted to continue that run. That's what one of the things that their fans were saying. Like, you know, they wanted to continue that run. So they did make changes, but not as many. But they really went for it in the second half, I thought.
They went for it. They went for it in the first 15 minutes.
Probably. Maybe it's a good thing that we didn't see that.
Funny thing is, we should have won that in the end.
Trossard had a very good chance at the end.
I heard you guys had a little bit of hassle getting in.
Yeah.
What
it was a very dangerous situation. So as you go into the ground, then there's 2 staircases. There's the one on the left as you go in, right next to the entrance, and then there's one the other side of the bar on the right. Now, automatically, people will always go to the closest staircase, and there was no stewards on the staircase. There wasn't even signage from what I could see. So everyone goes up one staircase. Now, when you get to the top of that staircase, it's different sections. So in effect, you've got 2 sections, but all the Arsenal fans are going into one. And we got in about 10 minutes before the start of the game, would you say, Lee?
Yeah.
So we had
big queues outside, weren't there?
So we had 10 minutes to get up the staircase. We got up half the staircase, and there was a queue on the staircase, and then there's people coming behind us, and we're basically trapped on the staircase, and we couldn't get up the staircase. Then as the game starts, people are pushing from behind because they want to see the game, or you're stuck on the staircase. We can't get up, we can't get down, and it's quite a steep staircase.
Yeah.
And
once you get into the ground,
it starts to be a bit
slippery as well.
It starts to be a bit of a crush. Then we hear the stewards are trying to. There are two stewards at the top telling people there's no room to go back, but people don't want to go back because they can't hear the instruction, and they're pushing up. And what it turns out is that it was so steep, the terracing, when you actually get to the top of that staircase, that people couldn't pull themselves up off the stairs.
Yeah.
It's a disaster waiting to happen, that place. And all they needed to do, and they should have learnt these lessons in the 80s, is to have stewards at the bottom of the staircases. So if one section is full, direct people to the other staircase, because it literally was about 15-second walk to the other staircase.
Yeah. And the thing with PSV, we had it at Luton, but a little bit different. Like, you're not designated to a seat. You just go in there, sit where you want. So people are going wherever they want to go. Where if you go to, say, somewhere like Liverpool, where it's in a couple of sections, if you haven't got the right ticket, you're not allowed in that section, and the steward will say, no, you've got to go to D or E or whatever.
It goes back to what we were saying last week about the away day experience in Europe. It's just not good enough, isn't it? I mean, I know there's a lot of problems at games and stuff like that, but it's just not good enough. I mean, everything seems to be directed to what goes on the pitch, but I really do think that UEFA has got to start looking at these things and looking at the fan experience around games. It's like they're not interested in it whatsoever until either something happens or until it gets to the final, when they set up their fan parks and this and that, and all that's great. But there's too many of these type of experiences. I remember when we went to Barcelona, there was like literally 2 stewards for the whole end. You know what I mean?
There are a few Arsenal stewards there, aren't there?
There'll be Arsenal stewards there trying to help, and that's great. But it's not really their job. It's the job of the locals to sort out these things.
Who know the network and the framework of that stadium. All you needed was 2 stewards at the bottom of the staircase.
Just to say that there is another staircase. One thing I will say about PSV, I don't want to go too bad. On the way out, fantastic. They've got a train waiting for you if you're going back to Amsterdam, free of charge. So you can go on that train, and it takes all the Arsenal fans straight into Amsterdam to get the flights back and all that. So they look at it. So when you come out, it's a quite pleasant. There's no this that they keep you there for a half hour to an hour and all that. You go straight on the train, and then if you're staying in Eindhoven, you just walk down. And I've got to say, very, very pleasant experience with PSV fans and everything in the everything there.
No grief.
No grief whatsoever. It's very, very pleasant.
That's great.
The one thing is that it is dangerous here, and the thing that is like, it's all right for us because we're a little bit younger. Not saying we're young, but you know what? There's a few older people that haven't got the power to push up and and like a woman or whatever, even children. There were some children at the game, weren't there? Something's going to happen at PSV. Something will happen where someone slips down and gets damaged or whatever.
It would only take one person to fall over.
Yeah, well, if one person,
be a disaster.
Say if Julian had fallen over or someone, I don't know what would happen, because you wouldn't have been able to get them up because your arms are all. Weren't you? There was no. You couldn't move. And the thing was, where I was, there was a load of people behind me, so you couldn't turn back to say like, all right, I'll wait until everybody's gone if you're safe or whatever. There was actually nothing you could do. And the good thing about it was, and I'll give big up to the Arsenal fans who are in and around that area, they were helping people, pulling people up. So people standing there pulling you up to get you away from that little bit of potential danger. I don't think there probably was people thinking that they was in danger, because you've had it before or whatever, but like, if someone would have fallen over there or whatever, it would have been a problem.
I mean, listen, we got the job done.
Yep.
And when you look at the subsequent games with Manchester United that took place afterwards. Bottom of their group. Newcastle.
Bottom of their group as well.
Bottom of their group.
This
well, they're saying now that it might only be 4 teams next year again.
But that could be a good thing because Spurs might come 5th.
Well, you say that, you don't know who's going to come 5th at this stage. But that's going to affect. But it just goes to show the importance of what we did in getting the everything done early, and then securing that, and also, you know, ahead of the game that's coming up this weekend, because, you know, Brighton have got a very tough game
today.
Where they've got to take on Marseille. And they need to win that game, otherwise they go into a playoff against one of the teams that drop out of the Champions League. So we should have and we got extra rest because we played on Tuesday. They're playing on Thursday, so that's all worked well. And of course, we're into the next round. Who do you guys want in the next round? I mean,
we're talking about this on the way.
I mean, let me see if I can just get up the
what are you doing there?
The draw's going to take place on Monday.
11 o'clock.
Yeah, 11 o'clock on Monday. We will get to find out who we get in the next round. But who do you want?
There's a few different things going on in my head. The first one, and got to be the prime one, is who are we most likely to beat? And that for me will be Copenhagen.
Who have been impressive though.
They've been impressive.
It's been impressive, but when you look at the other more traditional teams in there, you've got to pick them out as being, and it's not saying they're weak, but the weakest team.
Copenhagen were impressive. Let's run through the teams that we can get, right? Because remember, we'll be in the top seeds. So we're not going to be able to get teams like Bayern Munich at this stage, right? The teams that we can get, Copenhagen, who finished second in their group, in the group in which Man United came bottom. I still can't get
where'd they come from?
Bottom.
Yes.
Right? Obviously, we can't get PSV because they were in our group. We can get Napoli, which wouldn't be an easy game. A very good side, Victor Osimhen and guys like that. They're a top team. Inter Milan, that's another very tough one. Inter Milan, top of Serie A at the moment. They came second in their group on the head-to-head against Real Sociedad. Lazio, another Italian team in there. I fancy Lazio if we got Lazio. I don't know what you guys think, but we could get Lazio. PSG, Kylian Mbappe and co.
Who come bottom of that group?
Newcastle come bottom of their group.
Newcastle?
Yes, they did. Only one win. And that was beating PSG 4-0. RB Leipzig.
Wouldn't mind going there.
And Porto. So those are the teams that we can get.
Yeah.
So out of those teams, who, if you could pick the team that you get, who would you pick out of them?
Well, there's different criteria.
You've got Copenhagen, haven't you?
There's different criteria. If it was footballing, just purely footballing reasons, I'd choose Copenhagen. But there's more.
What's the other one? Money for you?
Well, it's not exactly. No,
we don't want to go to Copenhagen because it's quite expensive here.
It is expensive, but then I'm not that fussed about that. On that part of it, it's more of the experience.
You're worried about your spreadsheet.
That is one criteria. I've been to the Park and Stadium twice already, so I am looking for a new stadium on my spreadsheet. So that's important. But also when you go to these away games in Europe, it's also about the place you're visiting. And Milan, although from a footballing perspective, I think it would be good, and I've got some good contacts there, which hopefully would mean I wouldn't be sort of sat in the gods behind netting. But I've been there before, and there's not a lot to do in Milan for me. Whereas
Milan's a nice city, man.
I've been there, and I just didn't find it that. Many times. I didn't find it that interesting myself.
Food's nice,
lovely food. So
there's other
lovely shopping, fashion.
You keep going.
Exclusive Scottish restaurant. But there's other things involved in what makes a good trip for me, and there's places I haven't been that I would like to go. And one of them would be probably Leipzig, because I've not been there.
Yeah, I'd like to go there. Germany's always a very good place to watch football as well.
Snobbish.
He's very snobbish.
Snobbish stuff is starting to come out.
I don't want to go PSG, but I've got a feeling we'll get them.
Yeah. The snobbiness of you is coming
Paris,
out again.
You know what I mean? Do
you want me to tell you why?
Go on.
Right, because the majority of people watching this, the majority of Arsenal fans in the UK and around the world, won't get a chance to go away to the game. So as far as they're concerned, it's not about your trip. It's about what game can they get that we can win, which would then be able to progress through to the next round. not your jolly up and your trip
It's not all about
over
it, is it? Like,
Milan or Copenhagen or no, I want to go here for the journey and the trip. They are thinking about what game can we play which is the most likely outcome that we win the game and we progress through to the next round. So if you start looking at it from a regular fan's point of view, please.
I'm going to go Porto or Copenhagen. That's the two that I would like.
All right, if I can counter that, the first thing was you asked me what was my preference.
No,
yes, you did. Yes,
I asked you what your preference was, but I'm asking you from a football point of view.
Yeah, and I told you.
It's
about football.
I told you about that.
Earlier on, he's telling me about the amount of money we made from a game. That's the most important thing.
No,
now all of a sudden
important
you're putting
thing.
your self-interest in front of
you
what is the wider interest of
exactly.
Your exact question, verbatim, was, what is your preference? I explained from a footballing perspective it would be Copenhagen, but I said there's other criteria going on in my head, and I explained the reasons why.
So where do you want to go? Who do you want to get?
I think Leipzig.
Porto or Copenhagen, I'm not bothered.
For me, Porto, Copenhagen or Lazio.
Lazio's a good one.
Because I think Lazio...
It's also dangerous in Italy.
You're looking at self-interest.
I'm looking at the welfare of my fellow fans.
You're looking at your own self-interest, right? Lazio is a winnable game. I think over 2 legs, I really fancy us against Lazio. Over 2 legs, I fancy us against Copenhagen. And over 2 legs, I fancy us against Porto. But let's not forget, Porto are a very experienced Champions League team. So are Leipzig now, by the way. They're a very experienced Champions League team. And we saw, I think what I saw the other night when Newcastle went out is the inexperience of Newcastle in comparison to AC Milan. That, Newcastle 1-0 up. They're still chasing the game, trying to get to. They would have went through.
Yeah.
The other game was a draw. It was 1-1. If that had stayed the same, Newcastle on their head-to-head against PSG, they would have went through. They didn't need to chase after that second goal. Their inexperience cost them, right? So if you're playing Lazio, they're not an experienced Champions League team. But if you're playing Porto, they are. I mean, they've won the competition before. We haven't, and they're always in it. But listen, I take Porto. The teams, I think
just going back to that Newcastle point, I agree with that, because Newcastle have come from nowhere. They didn't even get into the Europa League and get a little bit of learning from it. We've had a little bit of experience going into Europa League.
Although we ain't been in it for a while. We haven't been,
but you get
a bit of experience from that.
They haven't had it. They've gone straight into the Champions League, and I think that's a great point you made.
I think
caught them out a little bit.
I want to avoid Napoli. I want to avoid Inter Milan, man. I think those are tough.
I think them too, and PSG, because I think as poor as they've been, they've still got a couple of players.
They've got world-class players. They've got Mbappe, they've got Zaire Emery, they've got, Vitinha, they've got, Marquinhos. They've got some.
I wanted them out, I wanted Newcastle to win this.
They've got. You want them. You kind of wanted them out because you don't really want to get them. And when you go to PSG, it's a very hostile atmosphere there. You know what I mean? This is a very good, a very good stadium
like Manchester
for them.
City to get them.
Yeah, that'd be good.
But I think they'll get Copenhagen now because they put a bit of money in that. We'll have Copenhagen, please. Manchester City versus Copenhagen.
But we'll be able to find out who we get on Monday. You can alert your travel agents and, for your 5-star accommodation.
Yeah, I didn't have 5-star accommodation at PSV, did I?
No.
But anyway, forget about all that for now. Put that all to one side. Put that all to one side because coming up this weekend is a very important game for Arsenal. Taking on Brighton. We've got a very poor record against Brighton at home. The last 3 games in all competitions at the Emirates, they've beaten us. They've got one of their best Premier League records against us away from home. I think it's their best.
It's not bad at home either. I mean, I had a look at the results initially between Arsenal and Brighton since they came up, and I looked at it and I thought that's not a bad record when I looked at it, and then I realised it was the other way round. It was actually Brighton's record. The wins I was looking at was for Brighton. I think we've only beaten them out of 12 or 13 games, 4 games since they've come back up.
Now they've got a brilliant record. Arsenal have lost their last 3 home games against Brighton in all competitions. We've only got a worse record at home in recent times against Man City, right? Brighton have won 4 of their 7 away games against Arsenal at the Emirates. It's the highest win rate, 57%, of any visiting English side at the ground since it opened. Brighton, right? But we've got an excellent home record recently. The last team to beat us at home was?
Brighton.
3-0.
Brighton. Last team to beat us at the Emirates. Since then, we're 12 games unbeaten, won 10 of them, drawn 2. But we need to win this game. We really do need to win this game. Brighton have got a lot of injuries. I mean, they still have quite a lot of injuries, and they have that really tough game against Marseille. We've had a lot of more rest. We had a dead rubber, whether we like to say it or not. So we were able to rest players like Saka and Martinelli and all these guys. This is a game that we really have to win, especially after dropping points last week at Aston Villa. Just before I touch on fully into the Brighton game, what did you think of our performance at Villa?
I thought it was excellent.
Yeah, I thought we played well.
Yeah. I thought if we carry on playing like that the rest of the season, I think we will be champions. Sometimes things just don't go for you. If you do the right things, more often than not, you will win the game. And I thought the majority of what we did at that game was good and positive.
Frustrating, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Didn't take our chances, did we?
Yeah, we didn't take our chances.
That's what we did badly.
And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. That's probably one of the main ingredients you need.
What did you make of the decisions? The 2 decisions?
Go on a couple of things. I can't. I'm actually not. I don't want it on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, or even on the TV. That show where that idiot talks about commentary of referees and things like that. I'm not watching it no more, because it is a wind up.
He skipped over it, didn't he?
Massive proportions. Where you want to skip over certain things, all that. What I've come to learn is if the referee gives that goal on Havertz, they'd have had to stand by it, because there weren't no evidence for the handball and whatever. They had to go, well, we've got to go with the online decision. Straight away, that wound me up.
Well, it wasn't clear and obvious, was it?
It wasn't clear and obvious. So I think it was.
Didn't it touch the hand, though?
They said they couldn't prove it.
It did look like it brushed the hand.
They couldn't.
The annoying thing about it is
they said it looked like it, but they couldn't prove it. Like the ball over the line, they couldn't prove it. So they couldn't prove. So if that goal would have stood, they would have said, we haven't got enough to say it.
It's actually Eddie's goal,
So, and there was the touch with Eddie got within it. Anyway, by that. Then I'll go to the worst thing of it. I see 2 penalties, exactly the same scenario. If you go back on it, both weren't given, but one was given by VAR and one wasn't. Now tell me why they intervened.
I know what you're talking. You're talking about the game against Crystal Palace earlier on in the day against Liverpool, where they pulled it back 3 minutes after.
Yeah,
3 minutes after.
No different to the Jesus one.
And said, and the Jesus one, how they can look at that and say, actually, no penalty is beyond me.
Yeah.
I just don't.
When you look at both of them, I think at the end of the day, again, when you go back to should they have gone against the ref, I don't think it was clear and obvious the Crystal Palace one. So it's not about Arsenal, this is about Crystal Palace, Liverpool. I've looked at it a few times now. We're all wanting Crystal Palace to get that penalty, by the way.
We're happy with that.
We're happy with that. But when you look at it for the context of football, I don't think they should be going back and saying, ref, you got that wrong. And then 4 hours later, what is it? They had a conversation in between the 2 games and thought, well, I'll tell you what, we was wrong there. So if it happens again at Arsenal Liverpool, we won't give it. Come out and tell me, Mr. Webb, why you intervene in one and not the other. It's crazy decisions like that, ruining football. And I've got one thing I've got to say now. I've got to say this now. Congratulations to the Arsenal women on Sunday, because I watched that game. I watched that game and thoroughly enjoyed that game. And the reason why I enjoyed that game, beaten 4-1, but I enjoyed the game. No VAR. There was a couple of controversial decisions in it, but it was a game that I enjoyed watching, a game of football, not being spoilt by idiots running a TV channel or whatever like that.
Do you know what, right? I found it's Gary Lineker said it on Match of the Day. He said, well, he goes, I used to be a big fan of VAR. I sort of advocate
ruining the game.
But he goes, now I regret it. He goes, it's just not. He was talking about the Arsenal game, and he was going, it's just ruining football now. The reason why it's ruining football, in my opinion, is just no consistency. So that's the problem.
Yeah,
you can have the one at Crystal Palace in the morning.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Right, and then you have the other one in the evening, and nobody knows what's going on. If the one in the morning is a penalty, then the one in the evening is a penalty. If the one in the morning wasn't given and the one in the evening wasn't given, you just look at it and say, it's like, you know my thing, the handball one, right? Why I didn't have a big problem with it, even though obviously you're gutted, is that there's a consistency on that. If it touches your hand in the build-up, they just say, right, no goal. I think it's a poor rule because sometimes when a player when a player handles a ball, sometimes they don't even know nothing about it. I think it should be more looked at differently in different cases. But we all know that's the rule, and that's done consistently. So this is the other example in our game. That was disallowed because the referee said it had hit the hand in the build-up, so it's disallowed. And then I watched the Man United game with the fourth goal for Bournemouth, right? But the fourth goal for Bournemouth was the same, where the guy, he didn't know nothing about it, but he just touched his hand in the build-up, they disallowed that. So for me, we can complain about the rule, we can say stupid, but it's consistent.
It was consistent.
But what it is,
there's no consistency.
It's not fact, Robbie. This is the trouble with VAR. That it's not fact. There's no arguments with the goal line technology.
It's nothing to do with VAR, because the issues we discuss now, consistency, have been in football since the day football was invented.
But you accept that.
But actually VAR makes them less mistakes because they get more of a chance to get it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So you accept it. Like, at the end of the day, forget if there's VAR. The referees give that handball. You just move on from it.
It's individuals giving their interpretation.
But the thing is, it's not fact. It's not
but
fact.
That's football. That is football.
Yes, there is fact. On the goal line technology, there's fact.
Yes, there is.
So use it. But at the end of it, it's still not fact, whether you think it's a penalty or whether you don't. Now, I'm going to go back to the incident with Cash. It's handball. You know what I mean? On Cash. Saliba got done for handball at Chelsea.
Yep.
Because the thing is someone's interpretation.
Yep.
Yeah, that's an handball. That is not. The VAR, if you're going to play VAR, it's got to be fact. So if the ball is on and off.
The technology isn't there yet.
Exactly for that.
So it does improve the consistency, but it doesn't rule out the inconsistencies.
No, but the inconsistencies are the way in which they use it. In that one guy can look at it in the morning and 3 minutes after play's continued, right, be looking at it, and then say to the referee, bring it back. That's how much he
that is an individual's interpretation of what they're seeing.
And then you then see another guy in the evening, the exact same thing.
But it's a different guy looking at it.
No, but then this is where it's bad, because there should be a general consensus across that. So this is where the leadership thing comes in, where it's like, right, when a handball like this happens, when there's contact in the box like this, we give those. When there's contact with, but there's no consistency. And basically, what these guys at Stockley Park are doing, they're sort of saying to themselves, right, because there's this edict, isn't there, from Howard Webb and the thing where he's like, we don't want VAR to be refereeing the game. So that's why a lot of times, even when something we can see it is a mistake, they try and come with this thing about not clear and obvious because we don't want to overtake what's going on. But they don't do it in every case. In some cases they do it, in other cases they don't. So they need to make their mind up what they're going to do. You're either going to use that to the letter of the law or you're not gonna, then we don't need it.
And then the worst thing about it is, right, they actually say, we don't want the VAR to referee the game. But then what they're doing is that when they're going to the monitor, they're convincing that ref, you've made the mistake. So all of a sudden they are refereeing it. They're going, look, you've made a mistake here. They're
giving them the opportunity to retract their initial decision, which does put them under some kind of pressure.
No, but they never ever do.
Because they're implying to them, you've made a mistake by the fact that they're...
And also the other thing, I've got to bring it up, free sending offs that were they let off sending offs the other day,
because there was an elbow in there on. Honestly, the referee.
The elbow on that one, the Romario tackle in that game, and also the Luton fella that dives 2-footed in and all that. You know what I mean? Against, they're sending offs. And
you're on about the Romero.
He's going like, we can't endanger a player. This is why we're making tackles.
Again, can you tell me how, right, I know it's a different game, but how could you look at that Romero
and not say that's a sending off?
And not say that's a red card? That's what I mean. So you're either using it for, because then on other games they will look at it and say that's a red card.
He gets sent off at Chelsea for endangering a player. That's what he got sent off for, but he actually wins the ball. This one here, he's got no intentions of the ball because it's miles away. Is that not endangering a player?
Yeah, I'm not disputing that these were mistakes. All I'm saying is, with VAR, they're making less mistakes because they're able to see it on repeat and in slow motion. So they're making, I think VAR is making less mistakes, and the longer we're here, the greater the technology will be.
They shouldn't really be making the mistakes they're making.
Right? Absolutely. They shouldn't be making any. If I was seeing something, they should be making. They're going to make. There's always going to be some mistakes.
Yeah.
But also the instance we're talking about with those 2 penalties last weekend, you could argue them either way. That they weren't clear and obvious to me. It wasn't like the Newcastle.
But the
Jesus one, he's kicked him. Right, he hasn't got nowhere near the ball. You could even see the face of the player. Right, I think it was Douglas Luiz when he kicks him. It's sort of like, oh, right. He's kicked him. He's kicked him right here. He hasn't got the ball. He's nowhere near the ball. He's kicked the player. The player's gone down. Right, that's a penalty.
Well, I think
the one during, and this is where we go back to consistency. The one earlier on in the thing, he's kicked. He's kicked to the Palace player. He hasn't got the ball. On one, they look at it and say, that's all right. On the other one, they look on it 3 minutes after play's continued on and say to the referee, come back, go to the screen and look on it. And that's the problem. No consistency. Terrible. A terrible use of this technology. It is terrible.
I remember also, was it McAllister got sent off for Liverpool this season? We watched it 10 times and you said, it's a bit harsh. You should have a penalty and all that. But they send him off, and then I see that Romero one, and it's 10 times worse than that. And the fact is, you're right what you're saying, but it's not fact. It's you think it's a penalty, I don't. That's not what VAR's brought in for, because
but it's still humans interpreting what they're seeing.
So but you come up with what you do is you come up with levels of what. So maybe they might look at it and say, right, in order to give a penalty, the contact has to be this amount or something. You come up with.
How do you gauge contact? Especially if players are diving, which they do.
You come up with a level of thing right across the board, and then you implement
it because
it's just
implement a
it's
level
so inconsistent.
Of something you don't know. It's a bit like when you.
Well, they've done it with it.
It's when you had a go at Trossard that he just rolling around on the ground. He wasn't injured, but ultimately you don't know.
No, it's just
an opinion.
Julian,
so it comes down to an opinion. It's not a fact.
And that's why VAR shouldn't be used.
Julian, then if you can't, then maybe don't bother with it, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what I'm saying with the handball thing. Even though I was really annoyed about that, I know that's the rules. They've got a set rule on that says if it hits your hand in the build-up to a goal, right, and you're the attacking player, and it's in that phase of play, we don't give it. So I knew once they established that they thought he hit his hand, it weren't going to get given, right? Because that's the rules. And I've seen that all season. I've seen those. I saw it in the earlier game.
Yeah, but they've said they couldn't prove that, Rob.
Right? All right, but it looked like he's hit his hand, so I'll take that one.
But
when you watch other things where, I watch one game, it's one thing, you watch the other game, it's another, then it's another, then what's the point in having it for those incidents? Don't bother, because it's too inconsistent and it just winds fans up. Because
it's not enjoyable watching at the moment.
You're just like, you're like, what have you looked at to come to that conclusion?
Yeah.
How can you look at that Romero one and not give it, but you gave the McAllister one? So if that's what it's going to be and you're leaving it strictly to the interpretation of the guy on the pitch, then leave him alone to do that and don't do no VAR on those things.
I don't know, but I'm going to say this now. If that Romero one is not a sending off, right, on Saturday, whenever they played Newcastle, then the one against Newcastle when he wins the ball is not sending off either. because he's won the ball.
Totally inconsistent.
That's my opinion.
But anyway, the Brighton game, I'm still annoyed about it. The Brighton game, let's hope we don't have any incidents like that.
We don't know. That's the thing.
Let's hope we don't.
Or if there is incidents, it goes our way.
How are you guys feeling about that
Nervous.
game?
Nervous.
Got to win it, innit? It's Liverpool next after that.
It's a massive game. I think that if Arsenal were to not win this game, we could find ourselves out of the top 4. And Julian's going on about top 5. You know what I mean? Like we could be dropping down to at least 4th, going over Christmas if we don't win this game. It's vital that we win this game. I don't care how we win it. It might not be the greatest performance. I think at the end of the day. We were talking about this coming down, like, you know, it was nice to watch a game of football without that pressure. You wouldn't want that every week.
But the misery is what we like.
Yeah, so you've got that pressure. There's the excitement of the game coming up. And Brighton have got a good record against us, and I do think that does happen to a certain degree. But then saying again that you know, Aston Villa had been on a great run in at home. The last team to beat them was Arsenal, and they still won. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
and we had a great record against them.
So
as well.
So at the end of it, like, Arsenal do the business. They've got to play well, take their chances. I think the one thing for me is the reason we didn't win that game last week was because the front three just didn't perform. They did not perform.
Well, they didn't perform as soon as they got in front of the goal.
Yeah, and
that's where it fell down. But also,
if they play well, that front three play well, Arsenal win on Sunday.
Especially with the amount of injuries that Brighton have got. I can't believe how well Brighton are doing with the lack of investment that they've got. I mean,
it's all about money, though, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the money that's coming in. No, as I said, I can't believe. I mean, they are 8th. They're a point.
Doing very well.
They're level with points with Newcastle at 7th. They're 1 point off 6th. Last season they come 6th. They've made 67 changes to their starting 11 this season, and the nearest to that is Forest at 44. Just to put that into perspective, we've only made 31. The fact that they're coping as well as they are with European football and the Premier League, I think they're a phenomenal team. But ultimately, we should be beating them, and we should be beating them well by 2 or 3 goals, particularly at home, particularly the fact that they've got a difficult game tonight, which should be very competitive. Yeah. They have to win that game, and they're then playing 2 days after.
Yeah.
Yep. What we've had to cope with over the years, that, you know, playing Thursday, Sunday, and as I said, we're very fortunate. Played dead rubber game on a Tuesday.
We made 8
changes. Rest up players. We got injuries, but nothing on the scale of the injuries they've got. You know what I mean? I know a couple of people at Brighton, right? And they've said to me that, you know, the past few weeks, some of their players have been running on fumes. You know, they're you know, the Matomas and guys like that. Because even though they've come back, they've just come back, and they're having to play like literally every game. And this is a big opportunity for Arsenal. I mean, Brighton will come, because Brighton are one of those teams that their policy when they go away from home is not to go for a draw, it's to go for a win every single place they go to. So Brighton will come and they will attack. Arsenal, I think, are better equipped defending nowadays. So because we kind of have this thing that when we're at home, we're going to always attack. Maybe we're going to have to be a little bit more sort of cautious against Brighton, because they are very good at attacking. But the thing about Brighton is if you are sort of a little bit of, you know, show a little bit of caution. And I think that was the difference between our performance away last season against them, when we beat them pretty easily, compared to the performance at home when we got, you know, battered by them, is that when we're at home, you're always automatically completely on the front foot. And Brighton can exploit that because they're a brilliant team in transition. But what they do, Brighton, is they do leave themselves wide open at the back at times. And you can get in behind them. They do leave lots of one-on-one situations. They're not really the sort of team that double up, you know, on players and that. They're a very brave team in the way in which they play. And that's why you see a lot of their results sometimes. They get these weird results in it where they can get spanked
hammered
sometimes.
At Villa, didn't they? Is it 5-1, 6-1 at Villa?
Yeah. It was 6-1 at Villa. I remember last year, I think it was... They got thrashed by Everton and things like that. Yeah, I mean, because they are a team, they're brave. They're very much on the front foot, no matter who they play. So I think tactically, we're going to have to, you know, you can't treat them with disrespect. You can't treat them and say, right, we're just going to go, we're at home, front foot. you got to treat them with respect, because if not, we saw what they did to Man United. They put 3 past them at home. They've done that to big teams where they've gone there, and so we're going to have to be very respectful of how they play. But I think if we do that, we get the tactics right, I think we'll win this game. Yeah, I know we've had a poor record against them, but I think
it'll be a tough game. I do think it'll be
tough game. But I think all the advantages are there for us as well. All the advantages are there for us, and everybody should come back in who, I mean, we're starting to even get some of the squad players back. It was good to see Smith Rowe back the other night, But we've got to win this, because next week after that, we go to Anfield. That's the big one. And also as well, when you look at it, you look at the games this weekend for the teams around us. I mean, Liverpool playing Man United at Anfield, you wouldn't expect them to drop any points in that game, would you? No. The way United are playing, they've just gone out of the Champions League. City have got, was it Palace, or they got an easy game? I think they've got
Palace away, haven't they? Is it away?
Yeah, you wouldn't expect them to.
But on the Liverpool Man United game, surely you'd expect some kind of reaction from United after that. And also Liverpool have been good, but they've been riding their luck as well. They've been riding their luck, Liverpool.
They're not beating Man United.
And luck doesn't always last.
Man United are so...
You might be thinking about the Arsenal game. I'm thinking I'll be very surprised if Liverpool don't score 3 on.
Yeah, they go batter.
I mean, United in November, they were winning.
Yeah, but they've got injuries. They've got a few of the main players have gone out now. The player of the month has gone down now, in Harry Maguire. You know what I mean? So work that out.
And the worst thing about it, they're rubbish. That's simply. Let's be real. They're not very good.
They've got players, that are good players like Rashford, just completely lost form.
When was the last time they won away from home as well?
Well, they must have won. It was when we were in Newcastle. We were watching them beat Fulham. Do you remember?
They won. Yeah, they scraped
right in the. Yeah.
I was watching the rugby, and they got one right at the last minute as well.
Sheffield United.
I
think that was before Newcastle, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. So they have scraped some results, but I think
it's still Man United, and you can't write them off. They're still one of the biggest.
I'd be very surprised.
It's at Anfield, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd
be very surprised.
They're not beating them. So we need to win.
Well, listen, and that's why we need to win this game, because we don't want to be going to Anfield 4 points behind, or 3 points behind if we haven't beaten Brighton, and then it could be going into Christmas 6 points or 7 points behind them, and all of a sudden there's a points gap and we're under pressure. So vital that we win this game.
And looking at some of Brighton's recent away games, lost 3-2 at Chelsea. Right,
and Chelsea had a red card in that one.
Yeah, so they lost 3-2. Went away to Everton.
Gallagher, wasn't it? Yeah.
Went away to Everton, drew 1-1. They did get a good win away at Nottingham Forest. They beat them 3-2. That's not always the easiest place to go to. Lost away at Man City 2-1.
That's not a bad result, is it?
They kept in it, didn't they?
Yeah. Lost to away from home. And then they got that 6-1 Tonkin away from home at Aston Villa. So they've not been great away from home. They've not been, most of their better performances have been at home. But they are that team that if you're not on it, they can pull it out. But we've got to win this game. There's the game next week at Anfield. We don't want to be going into that game where we're far off of Liverpool.
Yeah, exactly that.
We want to be going into that game where
if we beat them, we can go above them. That's where we want to be.
And set us up for the Christmas period. And I think it's fallen nicely for Arsenal, the fact that we did what we did in the Champions League and we were able to sort of rest players. We go into that game, and we'll talk more about it next week. Against Liverpool, they've got a game during the week in the Carabao Cup against West Ham. I know it's at home, but again, surely they'll have to go pretty.
Next week, is it?
Yeah. They'll have to go next week Wednesday.
Got through.
But surely, we would have been playing them. But surely they're going to have to go strong in that game, because you're now through to the you win that game, you're into the semi-finals and a chance to win a trophy. So.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
So it's not falling too bad for us. So we can have a little.
I don't think they'll go that strong though in the Carabao Cup.
If we'd have played Liverpool, we'd have played Liverpool.
We'd have played them,
Yeah.
Like
then,
Liverpool,
and then we would have played them
in the FA Cup, then
and then again in February. Yeah,
Blimey.
That's 3 trips to Liverpool. That's a shame.
Especially for you.
Survive, you know.
It would have been like a staircase in Eindhoven.
Anyway, let's get your predictions.
2-0 I'm going to go for.
Well, I think after what you said about them being open, and also the fact that they're playing tonight, I think we could beat them by quite a bit. I'm going to go 3-0 to Arsenal.
I'll go 3-1. I'll go 3-1. You know, I can see that we could concede in that goal, but I do think so many things are in our advantage.
Yeah.
We have to win this. I'd be very, very, very disappointed if Arsenal didn't win this game. And we've got a great record at home, and I'd be very disappointed with a draw as well. This is a must-win game for us.
It's a must-win game.
And they've got a poor record away. There's a lot of things in our favour for this game.
Got to win it. Got to win it.
Got to win it.
Well, guys, we've come to the end of the show, and don't forget we'll be covering that game right throughout here on AFTV. We're going to be at the game, all of us. So
you're turning up to somewhere?
Yeah. I'll be there. I had to stand in for you guys' chicken shop on the Wednesday.
I wanted to go to that.
He's very good. Very good. I'll tell you what, that was a very good video, by the way. Make sure you guys check it out.
One of the questions was really good as well.
Turkish against Dan Potts, man. I'll tell you what.
I'll ask you the question in a minute off air.
The levels were very good in that. There was some elite quiz masters in that game, man. They were good. So make sure you check that out, right? But we'll be covering the Brighton game here, both in the studio and, of course, we will be at the game as well. So really, really looking forward to it. And once again, don't forget NordVPN. If you want to get the VPN, go to nordvpn.com/AFTV to get 4 months free of NordVPN. With their brilliant 2-year plan. This is an exclusive to AFTV viewers, and you don't want to miss out on this. It's risk-free with their 30-day money-back guarantee plan. So thanks to the guys from NordVPN for sponsoring this video. Thank you, Julian.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Lee. According to them, they're still I'm so tired.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They went a 1-hour flight. It was.
Yeah.
1 hour.
1 hour flight.
Yeah, we slept
1 hour flight.
Yeah, we didn't have a
I'm so
hotel.
tired, man.
It wasn't jet lag.
You'd have thought we played Melbourne FC. You know what I mean? And they've been flying for 24 hours. I'm so tired.
I was awake for 28
I'll
hours.
tell you what is weird about Holland, which is a funny thing, is that the flight's at 7 o'clock and you arrive at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, and you're still crying.
And we're still,
I wasn't crying. I just hadn't slept for 28 hours.
These snobbish football fans, I'll tell you what, you can't handle them. Listen, thanks for watching. Subscribe here to AFTV, and we'll see you again next week for another Invincible podcast.